Hi and welcome to Hard Ass Reviews. I'm Jeff Cummings and this is your Hunger Games roundup. Now the Hunger Games is a trilogy of books by Suzanne Collins. The first is The Hunger Games, the second is Catching Fire, and the third is Mockingjay. Mockingjay, the film, is imminent. Obviously there's been a film released every year for the last 3 years, and unfortunately, well I say unfortunately, Mockingjay's been divided into 2 films, exactly the same as they did with Breaking Dawn, with Stephanie Meyer's Breaking Dawn. They're actually breaking the film in 2 halves, which, to be honest, I think is an absolute con. They should just do it as a whole film. But anyway, the roundup so far, The Hunger Games starts where it is the life and trials of Katniss Everdeen, which is the main teenage, I think she's around 15, 16, and she's the main principal character of the Hunger Games. And she lives in District 12. America has changed, and America is now has been divided into districts, and these districts are ruled by the capital. The capital is kind of like, you could say it's like the, well, it's a city, but it's a city of, you know, the ruling faction of people overseen by the president. President Snow is the president, well, how they see the president, and who is, I think it's Donald Sutherland. Donald Sutherland is the president in the film. But anyway, so the capital rule over the districts. They control the districts totally, so they can send ships down, or they can destroy the districts when they like. And the reason why everything has been changed and turned into districts is so that they, I suppose the political elite see this as a way to kind of like keep everybody in line. So each district has a purpose. So District 12 is mining, and all the different districts have, you know, different things. So some will cover agriculture, others will cover District 13, for example, that turns up in Mockingjay, and at the end of Catching Fire, they're to do with nuclear weapons. Now, The Hunger Games, the first book, I actually think is absolutely excellent. The whole story is the Hunger Games has been set up by the capital, and the Hunger Games, they have a reaping every year, and at the reaping, a female and a male teenager, young child, can be from the age of 12, are chosen from each district, and they all submit. So you'll have 24 kids basically, and they have to go and play the Hunger Games, and they go into the Hunger Games arena, and it is cynically and horrifically directed, you know, by the capital, so they can get the utmost amount of drama, and basically they fight to the death. So they have to go and play the Hunger Games, and they get all kinds of things thrown at them, and so that they basically have to fight to the death, and leaving one person right at the end of the Hunger Games, and that person wins, and then that person gets immunity at the end, and they get a new house, and they get to basically live their lives as a champion of the Hunger Games. The only thing that's asked of them is they have to be a mentor for the next reaping. So the next children who are chosen in the following reaping, the winner of the Hunger Games has to mentor them. Now that was actually set up, you know, brilliantly in the Hunger Games, and the first book is very good, and you're right in from the start, and Katniss Everdeen, you get a feel for her, you get a feel for her character, you get a feel for the drama, and you like her. Now, there are 2, unfortunately, this is kind of like a teenage, you know, teenage fiction. Therefore, you have to have kind of like a romantic element. So there are 2 main characters, Gale, and Gale is Katniss's friend. They've grown up together, so they hunt together out, you know, in the seam. They call it the seam, which is the kind of like the outlying areas of District 12. So they hunt together, and they can use bows and arrows and slings and stuff, and they hunt together. So that's Gale. But then Katniss is picked in the Hunger Games in place of her sister, because her sister, Prim, her name is picked out at the reaping to start with. But when somebody's name is picked out, somebody else can step in and take their place. Somebody else from their family can step in and take their place. If they feel, well, if they're of an age to do that, they can step in and take their place. So Katniss steps in the Hunger Games, takes Prim's place, and does the Hunger Games. Now, the book is brilliant, and to be honest, I thought the film wasn't too bad either. In fact, the very first time is I actually watched the film first, didn't understand it at all, went back, read the book, then watched the film, and then kind of understood the film. Then after comes Catching Fire. Now, I'm sorry if anybody's listening and they think, oh, well, it's a spoiler alert. Well, it's not a spoiler alert, because obviously, Katniss does win the Hunger Games. So the first book has Katniss winning the Hunger Games, and then along with her co-fighter from District 12, which is Peter Mellark. He's the second guy who goes into the Hunger Games with her. So you've got the two, he's the male from District 12, she's the female from District 12, and they go through all the trials of the Hunger Games together in the first book. And as I said, they're dressed, and everything's all choreographed right from the start. So they have a dresser in the Hunger Games who's called Cinna, and he dresses and choreographs, their movements, and they have to do interviews on TV. This is all, for the Capitol's benefit, so they get the most amount of drama. But when it boils down to it, all they're doing is they're just throwing kids. It's like the ultimate reality show. All they're doing is they're throwing kids into an arena and watching them kill themselves. Now, the Hunger Games is excellent, but then we move on to Catching Fire. So in Catching Fire starts where there is a meeting between President Snow, who's the leader of the Capitol, President Snow, and he has this short meeting with Katniss. And in this, he kind of makes it clear that he's not happy with her behaviour and her disrespect, shown in the first book, in the Hunger Games. Now, the reaping in Catching Fire becomes a quarter quell, which, I'm trying to remain neutral, but I'm not going to remain neutral. I thought it was ludicrous, because the quarter quell means that it was, and I think it was a cynical excuse just to pick Katniss out of the, pick her out of the hat or whatever it is, to do the Hunger Games again, because what the quarter quell means is all previous champions have to go into the Hunger Games and do the whole thing again. So Catching Fire has Katniss and Peter doing the Hunger Games again. And I personally did not enjoy the book. I quite enjoyed the film. I didn't enjoy the book because it was very repetitive, and the same scenarios were visited again that were visited in the first book, which, to be honest, I think Suzanne Collins should have left it really at maybe 2 books. Done a longer first book, and then maybe did Mockingjay as the second book. But Catching Fire has them repeating the same scenarios with previous champions. So they do Catching Fire again. But they don't do Catching Fire again. They do the Hunger Games again in Catching Fire. Now the conclusion of Catching Fire is obvious. Obviously, they managed to win their way through the Hunger Games again. So a lot of people are probably thinking, well, what the hell is the point? And to be honest, I kind of thought, well, what the hell is the point? Because we're going to go on to a third book where they're going to have to do exactly the same again. Now, I quite enjoyed the film. I did not enjoy the book. I was disappointed by the book. And to be honest, I'm getting quite tired of this kind of American teenage trilogies, whether it's Divergent or Twilight, where where always the principal character is a female, you know, is a girl with kind of selfless morals and slightly low self-esteem, yet she can seem to fight, and everybody seems to respect her, and she seems to find her way through the book relatively easy, you know, and totally and utterly unscathed. And you're never in any doubt that, you know, that will be the case. You never ever think, oh yeah, well, Katniss is going to be killed, or Bella's going to be killed. You never think that. Or Triss is going to be killed from Divergent. Now, Mockingjay, I've got to Mockingjay now, and I shall leave my review of Mockingjay. I shall definitely hold my pen on my Mockingjay review for another time, but I just thought I'd do a roundup of Hunger Games and Catching Fire, because the film is imminent. Put my teeth in. The film is imminent, so I will get back with a part 2 review on the Hunger Games and fill in with Mockingjay next time. And I hope you've enjoyed the review. If you haven't read the Hunger Games is actually worth reading, so I would recommend the Hunger Games. And if you can see your way through the Hunger Games and you enjoy it, then by all means try Catching Fire, and then, you know, that's the only way you can make your own decision, really, and then you can see whether you like it or whether you want to move on to Mockingjay. I'm going to go and see the film, and I'm sure I'll enjoy the film because Jennifer Lawrence is excellent as Katniss, and the films are always well shot and they're always well directed. So, and they're most definitely the best of these kind of trilogies, because there are so many of them now. You don't know which ones to see and which ones to miss. So you've got the Twilight ones, well, the Twilights are done now, but you've got the Divergent ones. So we've got the second Divergent to come up, and we've just had the Maze Runner, which is another set of post-apocalyptic, you know, American teenage trilogies. So I shall leave it there, and I will speak to you all again on the next review. My name is Jeff Cummings. You all take it easy. Bye for now.